You can go to college 100% free. Here's how. Hi, I'm Daniel Forbes, and I'm the host for the Root Square 7 podcast, where our goal is to inform, educate, and empower its viewers. And so today I want to share with you 5 ways you can pay for college. You know, with the rising cost of college, I think the average cost ranges from 2 to 10% annually. And also the rising student loan debt issue, anywhere from $30,000 to hundreds of thousands of dollars. And so, in fact, I've met a young lady who owed over $500,000 in student loan debt. And so I would like to provide you with insight in how you can either reduce your educational expenses or totally eliminate them altogether. However, let me provide a disclaimer. Now, what I'm providing is not a one-size-fits-all type situation. In other words, some of the information I'll be providing or strategies I'll be providing may not be offered at your institution. However, you can do your own research and find out the respective programs and opportunities that exist at that institution. The first thing I want to talk about are scholarships. Now, scholarship varies in forms and amounts. So, for example, there are scholarships that are based on your academic performance, you know, your high school transcript GPA or standardized test scores. Then there are those scholarships that are based on sports, right? You are an athletic student, you can apply for athletic scholarships. You know, maybe you're into basketball, maybe you are into football, maybe you're into swimming, maybe you're into tennis, and so on. Okay, and then also if you are already in college, right, there's still opportunities for scholarships. So research, find out from your school what scholarships are in place or grants for current students who are attending. Something I did take advantage of, as in the form of a financial award when I was in college, was I try to make the president's and dean's list every semester. These awards are based on your GPA. So I believe at the time, the dean list was from 3.5 to 3.75 GPA. And then to make the president's list ranges from 3.75 to 4.0 GPA. And I believe we received like $400 or $600 per semester towards our tuition, that is. And so, you know, everything adds up, right? Every little bit of money you can get actually make a difference. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is the college of your choice. How choosing a college can actually save you money. Now, I know the popular thing is to leave home and attend a college that's out of your city or out of state. However, the first suggestion I would like to make is, you know, if your parents or whomever you're living with, they're not kicking you out, they're not giving you a hard time, I would suggest that you be a commuter student, right? You either take public transportation and travel back and forth to school or to your college, or if you have a car, you can drive back and forth, right? And so that's one way in which you can save money, because the minute you decide to live in the dorm, which I'll talk about shortly, that will be additional expenses, right? In some cases, it could be 20 plus or even 30 plus $1,000 in additional expenses to you, the student. So again, you know, if you're living in accommodation of such where it's not an issue, I would suggest you travel back and forth. But then, of course, you have those students who your current living situation may not be ideal, and so you have to live in the dorms. Then still, I would suggest that you attend a local college that have a dorm system, because, you know, traveling from another state or another city, depending on where you go, can also run you thousands of dollars a year if you have to come back home for holidays, like Thanksgiving, you know, and things of that nature. And so that in itself can be costly. Now, I know that local colleges may not have the programs that you're planning to pursue. Again, as I previously stated, that I'm just providing information, and then you do your own research and see what makes sense for you. Next thing I want to talk about is dorms. Now, how can you save money? One thing you can look into is to become a resident assistant. And so what a resident assistant is, it's you as a student working with the Office of Residence Life to ensure that things run smoothly within the dorm. You would help build the community, help students settle in, be some sort of mentor, ensure that the college's policies and rules are being enforced and carried out, and other responsibilities. You might be required to do weekly reporting and things of that nature. And so just research at the college you're attending to see, because every college might have a different list of responsibilities for resident assistant. And so that's something I personally took advantage of. And so I was able to get free room and board. Now, as it relates to dorm, there's somewhere else you can save money by preparing your own meal. I know in recent time, the popular thing is to use food delivery services, right? However, that can run you hundreds of dollars a week, thousands of dollars a month. So you can save yourself money by preparing your own meal. One thing I do appreciate about my background, originally I'm from Jamaica, and so, my mom and other relatives, they will teach us to cook. And so I benefited from that when I was in college, right? We prepare our own meal. And so what we did at the time as well, we pool our resources, right, and go grocery shopping. And then we'll take turn in who will make dinner or whatever it is for that day, right? So you can save yourself money by preparing your own food. That is. The next thing I want to talk about is employment. Now, employment, the strategy I'll talk about can be twofold. Number one, it could be in the form of a part-time job, whether on campus or off campus. And so you can take advantage of employment. Now, I would suggest, especially for those of you who are new student, you're a freshman coming into college, I would say go through the first semester without working, just to kind of get a feel, right? This is a new experience for you because there's a whole different thing with high school and college, which I'll probably do a separate video about, right? But anyway, just go to take your classes in that first semester, focus on your education, and then if you feel like you could take on a part-time job while attending school, then, and even with that, I would suggest that you start small, right? Maybe start out with a 10, 15, or even 20 hours a week, because remember, the most important thing you're in school for is your education. And so you don't want to put yourself in a situation that you're working too many hours, you're overwhelming yourself, now you don't have time for homework, to study. Or I've seen situations where students are falling asleep in classes, and which means that you're missing out on that thing you're paying for, right? So start small and based on your ability to manage, right? In school life balance, that is. Okay. Now, the other way in which employment may work for paying for your college, there are companies out there that will pay for your tuition in 100% as a part of their benefit program, right? Would you believe that? Right? There are many companies out there that will pay for your tuition up to a bachelor's degree and in a master's degree in some cases, depending on the place of employment. That's something you can take advantage of, right? You work for this company and they'll pay for your tuition. Now, some companies work this way, that you actually pay for your tuition up front and they will reimburse you. I did take advantage of. I went to this college, right? And they had a policy. So to be a full-time student, you're taking like 4 courses or 12 credit hours a semester. So they have this policy whereby you would pay the same tuition for 12 credit hours, and you can pay the same tuition you pay for 12 hours, you pay up to 18 credit hours. In other words, you're allowed to take 2 additional classes for the same tuition, and that's something I did take advantage of. And so there are multiple semesters I was taking six classes because I'm like, wow, 2 free classes, I'm going to take advantage of that. However, like I said, make sure that you're able to manage that, right? Because taking more classes, that's more work, right? Require more time and discipline. So again, I'm just sharing with you from my own personal experience things that I took advantage of. So let's now talk about dual credit courses, and this is more so for high school students. So dual credit courses are courses that are offered at your high school for free, okay? And so that is something I would encourage you to take advantage of. I've seen situations where students actually even complete an associate degree at high school, and so they would transfer into a 4-year college as a junior. In other words, you would have completed 2 years of college for free, and you just need 2 additional years. So we have a saying in Jamaica, why buy the cow if the milk is free? So in other words, if you can get free college level classes, why pay for them? So again, these are just 5 ways I wanted to share with you in how you could practically reduce or eliminate your college expenses altogether. So I hope that these tips have been helpful, and I will provide additional videos on how to be successful in college. And so please subscribe to the channel so you'll get videos as I post them. And please comment, and we'll see you in the next video.